Hey there, friends and enemies, Joper here again, and today I wanted to talk about Wayfinder, a game that I think has a ton of potential still, despite a rough early access launch. There are reasons to be excited, in my opinion, about the future of this game, despite some concerns that I do still have. So, first off, if you missed it, the game launched into early access, which was paid and really struggled. It had major server issues, long queue times, and just a gameplay loop that wasn't engaging enough for a lot of players. But I would argue that's what early access is for. A lot of people don't kind of understand that when you're paying for early access, you're going to go through ups and downs, but you're rewarded with a first look at the game and able to shape the course of the game as it heads into the full release, which is going to be completely free to play. So the developers behind Wayfinder have to get that full launch correct. And in order to do so, there's going to be some growing pains, and that's what we're experiencing with early access. The bright side from what I've seen so far is that the developers do a really good job with communication. They're letting the community know what changes are on the horizon, what updates we are getting, how often we're getting updates, and what things they have their eye on and how long it's going to take to get there. They have a whole board of all of the different items they want to add to the game, such as like open world bosses and stuff like that, that I think are going to add a ton to the world and going to make it feel more alive. And that's one of the things that's a bit lacking right now, is it feels like when you're out exploring the world, there's not enough other players, mostly because there's not enough to do. Now, they did just introduce a new event that's ongoing, but still it's a match-made event that you go into a portal rather than fighting things out in the open world while you're just wandering. So I think that's something that could definitely be addressed in the future to make the game feel more alive. It's a co-op game. It's kind of an MMO light, so you want players in the world to be interacting with each other. In the main base, you'll see a lot of other players out and about, but once you get out in the world and you start exploring, those just kind of go away and you'll see one player every so often. It's not the same. I've also had some major problems hooking up with my friends that I want to run this game with, whether it's adding them to a party or whatever the case may be. So hopefully they get all those issues ironed out in the future, because that would help tremendously. And this is the type of game that it's pretty chill. The gameplay is fun, but I do think it's one that's played better with a group and with your friends. So they need to make sure that that is done correctly and you're able to easily match with your friends as often as possible. Otherwise, there's going to be some major drawbacks to this game. As far as the gameplay loop as a whole goes, they're missing a true end game, like any kind of harder dungeons or raids or anything like that. I think that's all in the pipeline as well, and I do hope that is something that is added. I believe firmly that if the game isn't where it needs to be, they should delay the full launch, which is expected early 2024, in order to get it right. Because I think early access is a great time to experiment with things, try new things, see what works, see what the community likes and what they don't like. The progression system when the game first launched was incredibly slow. Earning experience was almost non-existent. It felt like it took so long to not only level up your character, but your gear, but also your tower, basically the battle pass, which lasts forever, so you can get it anytime, you can finish it anytime you want in the future. You don't have to do it all at once like some other battle passes, which is great, but it took so long to get there that it just felt like it was going at a snail's pace. They've increased a lot of those rewards, and they're going to do so even further in the future to allow you to level up and do some additional things with your advancement in the game that I think is very vital, because it felt like progression was so slow. It just did not feel like it was a good use of your time to try to level, especially if you're running solo and you're trying to do these missions where you have to do all these things and then you get rewarded with very little experience for that. Now, some other things to be on the lookout for with this game, in my opinion, is the earning of characters. We have another character coming with Season 2. They've already previewed him a little bit, and I'm excited. That character looks really cool, but again, the earning of the character, you can do so through the reward tower if you want to go that direction, or you can unlock them in the future. But that's something to keep in mind, because I think one of the major gameplay loops of Wayfinder going forward is going to be similar to something like the First Ascendant or Warframe, insofar as like your main goal is unlocking those different characters and then leveling them up. That's one of the big parts of why you're exploring, trying to get new gear, is to unlock those other characters. And if they make it too much of a purchasable thing, then that's going to be a major issue. I don't think that's going to be the case. It seems like you're going to be able to, once the full game launches, all of these packs that you can get with your money for your early access launch are going to go away. They'll no longer be available. So we'll see what kind of monetization they include there, but I hope it's not too over the top. And from what I've seen, that's not going to be the case. However, the early access packs are very expensive, and I think that led to a lot of the backlash with people not being able to play, is because people spent upwards of hundreds of dollars on this game and they just could not access to it. So it lost a bit of the momentum that it did have when it went into early access. I'm hopeful that it will regain it for Season 2, as well as for the full launch even more so, especially once it does go free to play. If they have a fun gameplay loop at that point, if they have interesting content, a few different characters, I'm assuming they'll add one in Season 2 and then add another one with the full launch as well. And with that would be enough characters, I think, to start with in the game, as long as they're adding more of them consistently. But you need fun and engaging content as well, and that's going to mean those world bosses hopefully are implemented, things to chase, like you can have your own apartment in this game and hopefully be able to furnish it with some custom things that are very, very cool. They're going to do essentially community housing, so housing that's available for you and your clan, which is also very nice. And there's a lot of these changes and things that they're bringing forward that I am really looking forward to. I just hope it's not going to be too little too late, and that's my major concern with this game. Is a game like this needs to be a social game. You need a healthy player base in order for it to be successful, and I'm hopeful that once it does go free to play, there's going to be enough players around to really stick with it. And not only that, you need those players, because games like this sometimes will get cast to the wayside as not enough players engage with it. They don't make enough money. They can't keep enough developers on it. It might go the way of something like Anthem, which would be very, very unfortunate. We've seen, again, Warframe is a perfect example of a game that's just improved over the course of time. It didn't start as one of the best looter shooters out there, but it became one when all is said and done, and now it's in a spot that I think everyone recognizes as one of the top couple looter shooters of all time. So I'm hopeful that Wayfinder will find its feet in the same way. They do have some help from Digital Extremes for their live service aspect, and we'll see how they end up handling it long term. I'm hopeful because the communication is good, the roadmap looks good, and there's reasons to be excited, but also I hope the gameplay loop itself improves and there are some really cool, unique encounters, boss fights, raid-like events, dungeon-like encounters. All that kind of good stuff would help the game tremendously. Anyway, if you enjoyed the video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. Helps me out tremendously, shows you want to see more Wayfinder coverage from me going forward. My name is Jopa. I hope you have a good one, and I'll catch you all later.